Greetings, students, and welcome to your very first Keywords and Concepts video here for Chapter 1. So here's our first section that we have our keywords and concepts, and our very first keyword is psychology, which makes a certain amount of sense. So when we're talking about psychology, we're referring to the scientific study of the mind and behavior. And I know that sounds like a rather simplistic definition, but think about the ways in which that can be applied. How many different types of things we're really talking about when we talk about both the mind and behavior. We'll spend lots more time talking about this, but this is a really broad subject, right? Psychology is a very broad subject, lots of things to talk about. And the way that we learn things in psychology is through scientific theory. What is scientific theory? A scientific theory is a broad explanation or group of explanations for some aspect of the natural world that is consistently supported by evidence over time. So a theory is the best understanding we have of that part of the natural world. So my favorite example to give for a scientific theory that you are all familiar with is the scientific theory of gravity. Okay, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about theories, right? So right now we have the scientific theory of gravity, which explains all of gravity, because we've yet to have anything disprove what we understand about gravity, right? So that's a theory. That's a theory that's broadly accepted within the scientific community would be the theory of gravity, okay? And the way in which we went about getting that information was through the empirical method. Now, the empirical method is the actual way that we acquire knowledge, right? And we're acquiring knowledge based on observation, right? Things happening in the natural world. We're also doing things like experiments, rather than just trying to make a logical argument or arguing over things that already exist in the world, right? So we're looking out into the natural world, we're observing things, and we're making knowledge based on the things that we are seeing, right? Not that the knowledge that already exists is the knowledge out in the world. And one of the tools that we use to do that is something called a hypothesis. Now, you're going to have to come up with one of these kind of soon, so maybe pay attention to this part. But a hypothesis is a testable proposition. That's all it is. That is the extent of a hypothesis. A hypothesis literally only means you have an idea about how something could work and it can be tested, right? So a hypothesis would be, if you eat too much sugar right before you go to bed, it's going to be problematic for you to fall asleep, right? And you could test that. You could test that by either eating sugar before you went to bed or not, and seeing what happened either way. That's all a hypothesis is. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video.